please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Welcome to our Monday, May 20th school board meeting. We will start with our agenda, approval of deletions, additions. Dr. Baracco.
Thank you, Mrs. Seuss. We do have some revisions under my section 7.3. We added the Education Foundation donation to the War Memorial Phase 2. Under 7B1, some additional personnel recommendations under Mrs. Castaneda, and under 7F2, an authorization to do a change order under Mr. Ledger's.
Motion by Dr. Malco. Second by Mr. Marshall. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Is there any correspondence, Mrs. Kelly?
There is not, Mrs. Seuss.
All right, we'll start with our liaison committee updates. Mr. Marshall.
Thank you. Nothing to report on personnel interview committee.
Thank you. Mrs. Kelly?
I don't have anything for redevelopment for Cherville. However, the Cherville Parks Department has all of their summer programs up on the website, so lots of stuff to choose from for all ages. Also, they are still looking for a few summer employees, so if you have any of the high school students that are interested, please ask them to apply. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Malco?
I have nothing for Dyer Parks. I have nothing for legislative. For Education Foundation, it might be best to hold until we get down to 7A3 under the school board, or superintendent's report.
Okay. And Mrs. Talent, I owe you an apology. So yes, you are on the Dyer Redevelopment Commission. So starting in June, maybe if you can attend that meeting and if there's anything to report. And then I have nothing for either of my committees, so we'll move on to our official school board business topics consent agenda. Dr. Baracco.
Thank you again. Seek board approval for the minutes from our meeting on May 6th and seek approval of the claims payroll and extracurricular expenditures you received in your packets last week.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Mrs. Kelly. I will second that. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. And there is no comments regarding public action items. So I said that wrong. So anyways, we'll move to our official school board business topics, regular agenda. Dr. Baracco.
Okay, for my first item, I've been waiting on Neola to give us the updated version of the board compensation that was passed in this last legislative session. I'm happy to let the board know that your meeting rate is going from $112 to $150. First raise that I've seen you get since I've been at central office in 17 years. And then also the special meeting rates from $62 to $72. So what I put in your packet was just our current board policy, and I marked the dollars out. But if I don't get that update from Neola before our June 10th meeting, I will clean this up the right way and then submit it as a separate item. But I think it'll be in their update that's coming here later this week. We'll see. Either way, we'll have it done before the end of June, which is when you turn in your list of meetings and get your compensation for the first 6 months. So that's an information item. My second item is we did have some dress code violations at one of our middle schools recently. We had some pushback from parents. Internally here at central office, we've agreed to take a look at our dress code. I think the tripping point on this last thing was the length of girls' shorts. So we'll take a look at that. I'll tell the world right now we don't want short shorts, but maybe there's a happy medium that can be shorter without being super short. I don't see us going to spaghetti straps and things like that because a lot of our parents don't want that at school. And I've had people say you let kids dress how they want at the high school football game on Friday night, and I say that's different. It's different to me, and you can say that that's talking out of both sides of your mouth if you want, but I don't think it is. We're going to collect some data from our peers. We'll take a look at it, and we'll report back later this summer. And then for my next item, I see we've got some people in front, so I'll turn it over to Mike and Adam and whoever else is here, Zach and Sue, to talk about the donation.
All righty. Well, Thank you, school board members and central office staff, for this opportunity to present this Seed Grant Award to Lake Central High School. Would Joe Standish, Tom Clark, Amanda Schuyler, and Louise Talent please join me up front? Melody Wolf, the Lake Central Education Foundation Grants Chair, could not join us this evening, but sends her sincere congratulations to such a unique educational opportunity for students and community members alike. Lake Central High School administrators, Principal Aaron Novak and Associate Principal Richard Moore, have provided support at the grassroots level and were involved as the War Memorial was initially placed at Door A and dedicated. The purpose of Phase 2 of the Gold Star War Memorial is to increase the potential of educational opportunities for multiple cross-curricular lessons for students and any or all school community visitors viewing our memorial. Phase 2 is an opportunity to make our memorial a more interactive tool for people to find out information on not just those service members already on our memorial wall, but it will also continue to highlight those students who have walked the halls of Lake Central High School. The TouchPro TV will be an ongoing and ever-evolving tool that we will use to pay tribute to our Gold Star veterans and Lake Central students who have served our country and will continue to serve. It will also allow us to move in the direction of becoming a Purple Star school within the state of Indiana. So if you would please turn your attention to the screen. This is an example of what another school has done to produce a professional touch to honor their veterans. It also shows what students have accomplished through this interactive educational tool. So I'm going to turn it over to Joe. He's going to show 3 or 4 screens of the many available in respect for our time constraints tonight to demonstrate what this educational tool is capable of doing.
All right, so if you want to hit the touch to begin. Okay, so first and foremost, this is an opportunity to grow this memorial more than just of what we see when we walk into the building every day. We are going to learn more about their stories, those people on the wall, but also the stories of those students that walk the halls every day in this school. This is just an opening slide to it. I think what is very interesting about this is that it gives you the opportunity to not just highlight one specific area of the wall itself. It allows you to open it up to a lot of different things. As you see at the bottom of the screen, there's ideas for alumni. You can put in there pictures. If you click on the military highlights portion of it, things where we honor the military, if you want to click on honoring the military. Veterans Day appreciation, special visits by maybe former military members that have been a part of the school, Purple Star status as well, if you want to click on that. Just shows you, like, we can put things like that up. It's a very awesome and very unique tool that I think not a lot of people have in the state of Indiana. I know we do actually use this same company that we use for our athletic department. So this is the same company I've been working with for the last few months. If you want to click out of that X, you can go down to home screen, down at the very bottom, and you can go to alumni who served. This is the way we can kind of branch out this website as it is when you see it on the TV. If you view it by view all, if you want to go ahead and do that, you can connect with every single person that we want to put on that wall. And they use alumni, and they go really far back, to be quite honest. And if people want to submit things, I know that Tom has a vast, encyclopedia of different people that have been a part of this school building that he has materials on. You scan them, you upload them. If you want to click on, just click on any one on that screen if you want to. So it highlights, tells them what part of the military they were a part of. If you show the pictures at the bottom, you can open it up to even giving personalized photos. You want to click on that at the bottom. We can upload all these different things. It's a very multi-purpose tool I think it's pretty awesome, to be quite honest. And I know I'm a little bit impartial to it, but it's pretty neat. I know that every time I go through it, there's always something new that we can think about doing with it. So if you want to click out of that X again, you click on somebody else. That's one without, but just like I said before, we can put maps, we can make it interactive, we can put letters. I know Tom has letters that some of these former military personnel have sent to their parents, things like that. We can do interviews. We can make it as personable as we want. So I think this is an opportunity to make this thing incredibly awesome. And not just what we already have, but make it that much better. So if you want to click on the home screen and go to the home page itself. There's also a QR code, which I thought was pretty interesting. Because obviously we're going to encounter people at our Veterans Day Assembly. We may encounter people that we may have missed or we don't have on there, or we made a mistake with. That QR code is an opportunity for people to submit responses. We would create a website or an email account that we would be able to make adjustments with this, and also maybe also entertain interviews if people want to add things to it that they may have about certain people that are on the actual page itself. We can highlight our own people in the school as well. They have all, kids being sworn into the military, things like that. It's just pretty awesome tool. It really is. So.
Thank you, Joe. And to follow up this fine demonstration of what this interactive screen and TV can do for us, on behalf of the Lake Central Education Foundation, I'd like to present 4 of the team who are here tonight with a check for $8,681 to cover the total cost. Congratulations. All right, and if the other board members who are here could join us up front, Mrs. Castaneda would be happy to take a photo. Yes, we won't go out in the hall and make a lot of noise. Yeah. Oh, come on.
Joe, outstanding,
Thanks.
outstanding.
Thank you.
You guys come up front with the check.
Oh, don't you
All
love
our-
this? Your time at a board.
I know, yes, yes, we're done, Tom. Please, please.
Tom, did you want to announce the award that Joe recently received?
Joe just recently received the VFW Post 717 Teacher of the Year.
Thank you.
Sue, Tom, who will be responsible for keeping everything current?
We're going to, what I plan on doing, thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
I think it'll be a team effort. We'll help in any way we can.
5 more to go.
All of us.
So it's a joint effort, is what you're saying?
Yeah,
Lisa.
they've
Good,
got quite a team assembled.
good.
So what we're gonna plan on doing is getting together we're gonna be utilizing the History Club, the Interact Club, piecing together, we're gonna start with the people on the wall first, all our veterans on the wall that we have on the memorial itself, and we'll start with those individuals. We'll be uploading that information into the database. Once it all gets installed, then I'll be working with the company, so.
Well, this is very uplifting. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you guys.
Before you leave, can you give me information, what is a Purple Star school?
So the Purple Star School, I printed out some of the information. So basically what we have to do is we have to follow a certain criteria. We have to have a point of contact in the guidance office for military families, which we do. Meet all grade level training requirements for that point of contact, which she's going through that, I think, at this point. She was actually working at a prior school in Virginia Beach as part of their military group as well.
Who's
Her-
she? Who is she?
Megan Grumman.
Is she the recruiter? Oh,
She works.
she's a guidance
Her
counselor.
son was, or excuse me, her husband is a military personnel.
oh, and what's her name again?
Megan Grumman.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, so. And then, we have to work on a dedicated webpage providing recognition and resources, for service members, veterans, students, and families. Host an annual military program, a public military display recognizing service members. Submit a school board resolution publicizing support for military students, families, etc., and ensure military service members and their immediate family members meeting, minimum job requirements for open positions at the school will be guaranteed a job interview.
Okay, thank you.
So there's several criteria, but we're working on that
That's awesome.
pretty diligently.
Sounds like you've done a lot of them already.
We have,
You're
yes.
really
So,
out there, so that's
pretty
good.
excited about this.
Yeah,
so.
cool.
Lucky
All right.
to have someone who's, you know.
Yes, Megan's been a huge
That's
asset to
great.
us, and, you know, her stories that she tells from being on the military base over in Virginia Beach are pretty cool too,
That's
so.
awesome.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Everyone
Thank you.
involved, thank you again.
Congratulations.
Should I try to cash it?
Yeah.
You can just leave it. Okay, I'll cash it. Okay.
All right, and with that, we'll move on to our Assistant Superintendent, Mrs. Castaneda.
Thank you. For my first item, I am seeking the board's approval for the personnel recommendations, the revised copy that you received this evening.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Marshall,
Second?
second by Dr. Malco. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. My second item is to seek the board's approval for summer hires. As you know, that's our main hiring season, and so we want to be sure we can act quickly when we have the best candidates possible.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Mrs. Kelly. And I will second that. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. And my last two items are regarding the school corporation calendars for 24-25 and 25-26. For 2024-25, we did survey our staff after the built-in snow day this year on President's Day, and the majority of the staff felt that the attendance was low and there were some kinks to that, so we're not gonna pursue that moving forward. So the revised copy you see has that removed, and it also has our early release days added to it, so that's the update, and we would like to get that out to families soon. And then the other calendar for 25-26 was completed after going through the discussion process, and follows pretty much the same format as our previous ones, again with the early release days marked on it. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now on to our Director of Primary Education, Dr. Bracy.
Good evening. For my first item, I would like to seek your approval for the professional leave request in your packets.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Marshall,
Second?
second by Dr. Malco. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And for my second item, tonight we have two of our shining stars in the district. We have our math coach, Lisa Alessandri, and our literacy coach, Deanne McDermott. They are here to recap some of the amazing things they've done this year. There's no way for them to get it all in one board meeting, but they're going to try. But they have done some amazing things this year, and we truly appreciate them. So Lisa and Deanne, come on up.
I'll get started first. Okay, so we do have a little presentation that we put together that Deanne's been focusing in this school year on science of reading with our teachers and getting them accustomed to some of the changes that are going to be coming this upcoming school year. And then for professional development in math, one of the innovative things that we've been working on with teachers this year is trying to implement ideas and strategies in math with building thinking classrooms. I know that when I came and presented back in the fall, you kind of got a little synopsis about what building thinking classrooms is. So just as a recap for this school year. Okay, so as a follow-up, all of our teachers were trained in the fall, K through 4, including administration, about what Building Thinking Classrooms is by Peter Liljedahl.
Most of the teachers this year have gotten their feet wet and have just been in that first cycle of strategies with conducting random groups, having their kids stand and work at the vertical surfaces this year on different thinking tasks with math. So that's been a big adjustment for the kids as well, just because they're not used to standing doing their math work. So it's kind of been invigorating to the teachers. A lot of the teachers who have been doing the building thinking classrooms have reported back that they've noticed more student engagement, more collaboration, more communication. A lot of teachers at first that started with it and just had different math lessons or tasks that they were doing once a week or once every couple of weeks reported back that the students were really engaged and were wanting to get up out of their seats more after they had learned the procedures and expectations with it. So that's been a positive. And then also a lot of our teachers that have been using them on a daily basis have also noticed that when they go to give their end of unit math assessments that the kids have been performing better too from the more collaborative group work that they're doing at the vertical surfaces up on the wall. In February, I attended the ICT on Math conference with a couple of math teachers in our district as well as our coaches. There was a really good presenter there who gave some information about building thinking classrooms and how to get kids ready for state testing and practice iLearn performance tasks. So I took some of the information that the presenter had gave out and sent out a spreadsheet to our 3rd and 4th grade teachers to see if anybody would be interested in having me come in and kind of model what a performance task could look like by not doing it paper pencil at their seat or on their computer and doing it at the vertical surfaces. So I had a lot of 3rd and 4th grade teachers in our corporation take me up on that, and we went through the steps and I provided more information for them on how to guide the students and what kind of questions to ask the kids. And then as a follow-up, provided also some other sample ones that they could try with their students as well. So just, I'm gonna have you take a look at these 2 visuals. So there's 2 different visuals of what a problem performer is and a problem solver. Where do you guys feel as the board where our students should be if we want them thinking about math, doing things more inquiry-based, coming up with problem-solving, reasoning? We want them to be that visual on the right and not the left. So as Peter Liljedahl talks about in his book, I thought that these were 2 really great visuals that I had picked up at a webinar that I had just watched digitally on my own, and both of these visuals really resonated to me because when I think back to math and how I learned it as a student, I feel like I identified more on the left as the problem performer, that I was only taught one way, one strategy, that I was programmed to do a lot of things procedurally with algorithms, but didn't have that understanding of why. So now, you know, we've made big shifts, I feel like, for a while in our corporation with getting kids to become problem solvers, and a lot of Peter Liljedahl's tasks and just his 14 practices of building thinking classrooms have really, I feel like, invigorated the teachers. It's been great for the kids, and it's kind of transformed our classrooms. And I've been pleasantly surprised with, you know, initially just trying to get people interested and on board, that a lot of people have really taken the vertical surfaces and applied them not just to math class, but I've seen a lot of teachers using them for reading now and using them for phonics instruction and with lessons with the students. A lot of our teachers are doing science experiments and having the kids write their results from experiments. So a lot of our teachers are now integrating them, not just with math, but into other content areas, which is great. So these are the 14 practices that they talk about in the book for this year. I feel like most of our teachers are kind of in the first 4 items that you see on the list, that our teachers have gotten pretty good with getting the kids used to standing, doing the random groups, providing thinking tasks. And then number 4, defronting the classroom, just means instead of having the kids in straight random rows, that the classroom's a little bit messy and disorderly, and that gets the kids thinking this is a safe place where I can take risks in math, and I don't need to be sitting in a row facing the board, that it's not all teacher-led, that it's more student-led now. So for next year, some goals that I have is to continue working on building thinking classrooms with our teachers, but to get into more of the steps that you see that are lower on the list. I feel like number 10, consolidating student learning, is really key to getting kids not just doing the tasks at the vertical surfaces, but if we want to have deeper discussion about what the strategies are, what the most efficient ways are, how students might be solving with visuals, and then connecting that with more abstract reasoning, that's going to be the piece that kind of ties it in a little bit better. So that's something I'd like to work on next year with our teachers. Also, good questioning. Good questioning is hard to ask. It's hard to ask kids the right type of questions without leading them too much to the answer. So that's something that I also have as a goal for next year with our teachers. And these are just some examples of the kids working. This was in a couple kindergarten classrooms with working on numbers, counting on from 0 to 100. The picture on the right, I gave each group of students a bag of dice, and then they had to roll the dice once, and they had to figure out with the dice that they had, and they couldn't re-roll them, how many different ways could we get to 10, and they could add as many add-ins as they want or as few as they want. And so that group did a really great job on the right, just coming up with some different equations. And then even after they used all the dice, they said, well, what do we do now? I said, well, why don't you try to make 12? Is there a bunch of different ways that you can expand that then? So just thinking of good questions to ask them. This was in a second grade classroom that I was in recently. So Deanne and I have also been working this year with the shift to science of reading, not just doing math solely for math, but how could we integrate writing in what we're doing in math. So a lot of our students really like these SD mysteries that are on Steve Wyborny's website. So a lot of the kids have seen the SD mysteries. They estimate by looking at a picture, and then they use a bunch of math clues to try to then arrive at the mystery number solution. So in a second grade room, the kids had their own picture. Each group had a different picture, and they had to write their own clues themselves. So it was more of an integrated lesson with writing and math. And then here's just some other examples in 3rd and 4th grade. Kids were learning about geometry, and then we tied in geometry after they had learned different types of triangles, quadrilaterals, and polygons. They play a game called Which One Doesn't Belong, so they had to compose and draw their own polygons and then write a reason as to why each shape doesn't belong with the rest of the group. So I feel like with these types of tasks, the kids are getting deeper into understanding that we're not just, we're getting really below the surface with their thinking in math. The girl on the right, she was comparing and contrasting two different shapes, how they were similar, how they were different from each other, and that ties in perfectly with reading too, bringing in those language arts skills. This was a group of kids in math. I gave them the task on the left as a way to kind of prepare for iLearn, bringing in those money standards and decimals as well. So their challenge was to try to get to the total amount, and they couldn't go over that amount. They couldn't buy any one item more than once. And the kids were so engaged. They saw the picture up on the screen right away, and it immediately caught their attention because that's stuff they want to go to the store and buy themselves. So, and then these are just some other goals for next year, piggybacking off of the work that we've done this year with teachers and building thinking classrooms. Peter Liljedahl, I found out recently that he is releasing a mathematics task book for K through 5 that's coming out in June. So Dr. Bracy was so gracious to order a book so that way I could do some more PD with teachers next year. And once the book comes in, I'm going to take a look and see what kind of tasks would be appropriate for K through 5. So that's coming. It's supposed to align more with the 14 BTC practices and newest research that they've done. And this is just a way for teachers to expand upon what we're currently using with our Reveal math curriculum, that we can integrate some of these thinking tasks with what they're already doing with their grade level standards. All right, any questions or thoughts?
Go ahead.
No, I have a question. What can you tell me about Peter Liljegdal?
What can I tell you
Yeah.
about him? Well, he's from Canada. He's Canadian. He has a background in math. He was a math professor, and right now he's currently traveling. He's doing his book presentation. I first learned about him actually through Sarah Castaneda. She introduced us to the book last year. So once I started reading the first couple chapters, I was hooked. So all of his background is in math. He was a math teacher at the high school level for a long time before he started working with teachers in the schools and finding and conducting the research on
Okay.
how to best engage
Wanted to
students.
know, I hadn't heard that name, so I
Mhm.
was curious.
Mhm.
I figured he was from Sweden, but no, he's from Canada.
Mhm.
Okay, that's okay.
Mhm.
And Lisa, why don't you share with everyone what you're doing in September?
Oh. You're putting me on the spot, Dr. Bracy. There's a NCTM, a National Council for Teachers of Mathematics conference in September, at the end of September in Chicago. And then I'll be presenting a session there one of the days on adapting mathematics activities for students with special needs.
Congratulations.
For you. That's
Thank you.
great.
All right, well, I'm gonna hand it over to Deanne McDermott, and she'll give you a little bit of information and not enough time on the science of reading.
That's okay. No, it's okay. Tell me, I'm not as proficient at this, do I?
That's okay, you didn't
This
get the-
one?
Yeah. just
Okay.
put it to the right. Uh-huh.
All right. Well, hello, everybody.
Hello.
So, this year was just really all about professional development, more professional development. It just went on and on and on. So it was extensive and thorough this year for sure. So just wanted to let you know that we have provided PD in the area of science of reading to all of our K through 4 classroom teachers, as well as special education teachers, our EL teachers, our administrators, reading specialists, our speech and language providers. We even did a separate, presentation for those guys. And even Misty had me come in and even do 5th grade language arts teachers. So this is something that, because it is a nationwide initiative, we wanted to make sure that all the stakeholders were well represented. Everybody's getting the same thing at the same time in the same way so that we could be consistent. So that's something I am really proud of, that Lake Central has really just jumped on that bandwagon, because it's here to stay, so let's get moving with it. So I'm really excited about that. Also, many of our teachers have taken it upon themselves to further their own training in science of reading. We've got a lot of teachers doing the letters training, myself included. It's a very intensive training, but well worth the time. The Reading League has often offered many virtual sessions that our teachers have taken advantage of. And many are even signing up for that Keys to Literacy that's being offered through the state this summer. So we've got more teachers doing even more on their own that really gets down into the meat and potatoes of the whole thing. So coaching opportunities this year were provided to teachers that were willing to implement some science of reading strategies in their classrooms starting this year. So this year they weren't required to make any changes, really, because the curriculum wasn't in place. So they could just keep going as they wanted to this year with their old curriculum, or they could decide they wanted to start getting their feet wet and trying some new strategies. So I was hoping that we would get a lot of teachers on board with that, and several did. Several wanted me to come in and kind of help them get going with that. Also, we've had a busy year in reading. We adopted a new reading curriculum this year. That took a lot of time, but we ended up with McGraw-Hill's Open Court. You'll be happy to know that it is tightly aligned to the science of reading. There are only a very few areas of Open Court that didn't tie well with the science of reading, according to the Reading League, which kind of grades all the curriculums. But those areas are very easily tweaked by our ELA curriculum teams. they will be easy to address and fix moving forward, so I'm excited about what we have chosen. We've already begun working through the scope and sequence to prepare for next year, and super excited about the changes. I am jealous of Lisa's pictures. She has a lot of that's the one thing this year, I didn't think to do that. So next year, going into classrooms, man, I'm taking my camera, taking pictures. So I don't have too many of those to show you. But one of the main components of Science of Reading is the systematic, explicit phonemic awareness and phonics instruction. Such a critical component for our early readers. And we want to make it engaging for kids. So this can be done very easily through multisensory instruction. So a lot of our kindergarten teachers and first grade teachers started changing that mindset to move towards this change. And this is just a picture of a kindergarten class at Watson. They were practicing the silent E rule. And had this been a video, you would have seen the little girl with the E on the end reach around only one consonant to tap the O on the shoulder and say your name, because that's how we teach the silent E rule. And they were loving that. Here's just another example in second and third grade. Some of the teachers took advantage of integrating science, not to be confused with Science of Reading, but integrating science instruction with reading instruction, because one of the components of Science of Reading is that integrated, the connected learning that we're trying to promote as much as we can. If lessons can be thematic, if we can have common vocabulary across the day, across the weeks, kids learn better. That's how the brain works. So we started connecting some science with our reading this year. There were some classes that did an inquiry-based learning with their vertical surfaces. We actually use those in the lesson too. We used a biography about a child inventor named Richard Terreri, and they were connecting that content with their engineering design science standards. And then they took that one step further, many of them, and had kids practicing their own design for the similar problem that was in the book. Other teachers decided to jump into the new Open Court series. Towards the end of the year, we started getting our materials in, and teachers wanted to dive in. So we had some teachers open up one of the units. They were already doing their life science unit at the end of the year. Many of them have butterflies because they're doing like that spring, pollination, insects. So we opened up the Busy Bees lesson and connected it to the ecosystem science standards and followed up with a fun pollination experiment. So the goals for next year is just to continue what we've already started. I'll have to look at any new staff and or teachers needing professional development. We'll start there. I'll be assisting teachers with the implementation of the new Open Course series. Connecting the scope and sequence, especially at grades 2 through 4, with those essential academic standards that are tested on iRead and iLearn. We want to make sure that the scope and sequence matches or getting them ready for what they're going to need to know prior to March and April when those tests come around. So if the scope and sequence doesn't get us there, we're going to have to make some tweaks so that we do get them there. And finally, we're needing to look at some of our benchmark reading assessments. Some of those need to probably go away. New ones need to be added, changed, tweaked. So we need to decide which ones need to be administered to align best with the Science of Reading. We also need to encourage our teachers to use that data to drive their instruction. We've got a lot of data that's going on data sheets, and if it's just for data's sake, we've got to get past that. So the data needs to drive the instruction. And so we'll take a look at those pieces. We're also needing to use that data to differentiate our students for MTSS, which is our new win time. That's another initiative beginning next year. So just a lot of things going in the area of reading instruction in the elementary school. All of it positive. It's just all coming down at the same time. So it's been a very busy year. Next year will be as well. And then finally, Lisa and I have done a lot of professional development this year in coaching, just coaching professional development. So we have been working with a coach of coaches, so to speak, who's introduced us to this mini coaching cycles model, and we're hoping to move in that direction next year. So rather than kind of what I like to call a fly-by coaching experience, where we might just be in a classroom for a day and then leave and then maybe not come back for another week or two, this is more of a cycle. So the concept would allow us as coaches to use data. We're going to set a goal with a teacher, then move to collecting some data, and then use that data to plan some activities, co-teach lessons, then reflect, replan, and start the cycle again if needed. So it's going to kind of focus our coaching a little bit more. We're hoping to be in classrooms longer for an extended period of time and really make a stronger difference with teachers. So lots going on. Any questions?
I do.
Oh, okay.
Have you thought any about the PD for the parapros or some type of awareness for them in your training cycle?
That actually has come up. We have thought about that. That hasn't happened yet. So that could happen at the beginning of next year. certainly.
If you remember, Dr. Malco, at the last meeting, I talked about the grant we've applied for training for our paraprofessionals. So part of what we would be including in that would be academic strategies, which would include things related to the science of reading.
Just so they have the lingo
Sure.
and they know what that verbiage means. when they hear
Absolutely.
it. And then the other thing you mentioned about the data, and you're right, being on the paper is just half of the game. So do most schools have data meetings, team meetings where they discuss data?
They do. One of my biggest successes this year, I spent a lot of time at Bibbage this year. Allison Petralia had me come in and actually here, so she can confer. But we've been really tracking that data very closely this year. She wanted to do what she called data digs at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year, where we're not just looking at the numbers on the page, but what do those numbers represent? And so if you're taking a number and then you're looking at that test and then breaking it down into what we did is looked at iReady, and instead of just looking at the scaled score, we looked at, okay, what red zones does this child have? In other words, if they have a red zone, that means that there's an area of weakness, right? So if this child might have a green scaled score, but he's still got a red zone in the area of phonics, we need to work on that. We don't just assume he's okay because he has a green scaled score. Digging down, figuring it out, and then she was, working with her teachers to group those students, tackle that data, and tackle getting those kids intervention in the areas that they needed it. So that's something that I was really proud of, and their data looks fantastic this year. We actually had a celebration day today where she set aside an hour for teachers to come in and just have snacks and talk about their glows, and everybody was really excited about that. So, yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Deanne, Lisa, will you do us the honor of passing and give it a fist bump to all the board members? That's a great presentation. I appreciate it.
I'm more of a shaker.
Good job. Great presentation, for sure.
All right, we'll move on to our Director of Secondary Education, Mrs. Schooneman.
Thank you. For my first item, I am seeking the board's approval for the professional leave requests that are included in your board packet.
Motion to approve. Motion by Mrs. Kelly,
Second?
second by Mr. Marshall. Any questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. For my second item, I'm seeking the board's approval for the field trip requests also included in your board packet.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Marshall,
Second?
second by Dr. Malco. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. And then my next 3 items, I just would like to provide a few secondary curriculum updates to the board. The first one, number 3, is we recently hosted School City of Hobart teachers and Dr. Peggy Buffington, and they presented to our middle school and then high school staff about Conmigo, which is an AI tool. You're probably familiar with Khan Academy. So Dr. Buffington and School City of Hobart have been working closely with SalCon. Actually, they very closely. They actually just had a town hall meeting where all of the students in the corporation did a Zoom call with Sal. They're piloting the program Conmigo, and so they've got researchers coming in and things like that. And so Dr. Veraco and I actually saw the presentation at Ready NWI this year, and we wanted to bring that back here as kind of an entry point for our teachers. And, you know, entry point, our teachers are in various places with AI, but we wanted to have something where they're all hearing the same thing, and then we can have discussion from there. So I do have for you after the meeting cards with a QR code, and so you can see the presentations as well if you're interested in that. It's quite interesting, and actually the Conmigo teacher version is now free for teachers, and so they shared a lot about how it can be a helper for teachers. They actually came with shirts that said AI is my teaching assistant. And so it's not, and they stressed, it's not a replacement by any means, it's a help. And one of the claims is, you know, when students don't have access to their teacher, do we want them to have a tutor? Conmigo can be that. It doesn't give answers. And so if you, Hobart was tasked with trying to break Conmigo, throwing everything they could at it, seeing what it could and couldn't do, where its limitations, things like that. And it won't give you the answers. It actually is very much like a thought partner. And so the kids or grown-ups can interact with the bot. It'll ask brainstorming questions, things like that. It can help teachers make rubrics. It can help, you can put in a standard and ask it to create a question, you know, based on that standard. Then, of course, that's the brainstorming piece. So then we don't just take it at face value. We look at it and determine whether that's useful. And it all goes with the ethical usage of AI, which is part of our standards, definitely part of computer science standards, but also in some other areas. I could go on and on about the presentation, but you'll have the QR code for that. And so where we are here at Lake Central is we had some great feedback from that, which is always, I think, exceptional to hear positive feedback in May from an early release, because everybody is busy, they have finals coming up, et cetera. And so to be forward thinking in May can be kind of tough, and our teachers, I mean, they really just embraced it. And so we've been getting a lot of emails about, well, I use this, can we talk about this? And, you know, is there a chance we'll pilot this? So there's a lot of interest. And so we're working to find out who's using what, and then we'll move forward from there in terms of what we look at moving forward. Any questions about Conmigo?
This is grades 5 through 12 now?
That saw the presentation, yes, 5 through 12. Yep, so we did the high school first, an early release, and then we did a second session for the middle school.
So is most of the interest at the high school level or at the middle school level?
Both, yep. We've had some interest from the high school business teachers. So part of the panel who came to discuss, they had different teachers, a business teacher, an English teacher, an ELL teacher, and that's been just transforming for her. And so just really interesting to see the various perspectives, even references to Algebra 2 and, you know, it helping kids break down a problem and things like that. And so it's kind of opened the door to learn about, okay, what are our teachers using and finding that's helpful for them? And then how do we want to start to teach kids about ethical usage? And in order to teach them about it, we have to let them use it. And so what does that look like for us? We're at the beginning stages of that, but we're building a good foundation so far.
So has the Department of Education come out with any type of guidance yet for schools?
So the Department of Education, there is a lot of training available through the Learning Lab, which is what they use for their professional development. So lots of training opportunities. We hear some things about, policies and different schools creating that. I know that anytime we've gone to any kind of superintendents gatherings, the number one thing is superintendents, watch AI and get in front of this because we have to embrace it. It's not going anywhere. And so just kind of taking cues from that. But yes, the IDOE does reference it quite a bit. There are grants every year. And so we'll be looking at that next year as we look at some opportunities for people that might want to pilot some different things.
So you're thinking they will give us better leadership, is that what you're thinking? That's okay.
Yes, I think they will. They will. And we've been looking at university policies too, and those are so different. Even, I just looked at Indiana State's policy recently, and it seemed to embrace it a bit more. And their policy was you can use AI for the brainstorming process and almost like an encouragement of that thought partner relationship. Which was interesting because other universities have had, nope, we don't want to see any AI. So there's just both ends of the spectrum.
What is the new name for the GED at the state level? Do you know? GED has a new name, something like IHETS, or have you heard of that?
Task?
The last that I can aware of.
What'd she say?
Task. TASK? TASC? I'm using my phone a friend for this.
Well, I just came back from Louisiana, and there was a young man that I was helping him study for what we used to call the GED. It's now called the IHETS or something like that, I don't know. But when you're talking about the proposal, it kind of reminds me of what we were going through with him, because everything was so scripted, and it was so detailed with the explanations right there on the screen. It was very interesting. I just learned a lot from it. I just don't know what the name of it is.
Mm-hmm.
But just curious. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
No longer one test, it's subject matter tests they have to take.
So for my next item, just brief update. Fifth grade science, we have some training coming up here this week. They have chosen new materials. They actually chose them at the end of last year, but then waited a little bit to actually order them and start that cycle. But we're bringing in trainers from the company. It's Discovery Science with the Mystery Science, which some of our elementary grades use as well. And so it's that inquiry-based science, hands-on. There's kits that the teachers get. So it's just an exciting time. Fifth grade's been really excited to get their hands on the materials and start mapping and getting into that. And then finally, I just have a iLearn checkpoint mapping update. So our math coach, Scott King, has been working with the math teachers, and he's completed the work with math teachers so that they are already they're all ready to go into the iLearn pilot for next year. And so what that means is the state has released checkpoint maps basically that tell us which standards are being covered or will be tested for each checkpoint. And so we went through and updated the curriculum maps to make sure that they're meeting those checkpoints, figuring out timelines. With math, it's a little tricky because there's a lot to get in, even though the checkpoints are formative. And so we want to use that to drive instruction. We want to make sure we've got all of the topics in before that formative. And so at first, before really going through all of the work, it seemed daunting for some grade levels that how are they going to get this in? But happy to report that it's possible in all grade levels, not just on paper, but really tried to have a realistic approach, like can we do this? And then keeping in mind that piece of looking at the data and then going from there, because there's a Form B for all of the formative assessments as well. So if a group of students doesn't perform well, then there can be some reteaching, and then give the Form B and go from there. And that data is going to be a 24-hour turnaround. So we're excited to see what the state has in terms of that data. We don't know exactly what that looks like yet. English language arts, we've actually been meeting last week and this week. And then we'll have some work that continues in the summer with some of our advanced courses, but same thing. They are getting ready and will be ready for the start of the year to have their maps aligned with these checkpoints. And then we're just gonna dive right into that formative assessment. And I like what you said about the data being on the paper is only half of the game. So we're really gonna have a strong focus on that. And we like that the state is moving in the direction of formative assessment. So we're ready for it.
Sounds great.
I agree.
Thanks.
Thank you. And Becky, Mrs. Gramala, excuse me, Director of Student Services.
My first item is to seek your approval for the professional leave request that was included in your packet.
Move to approve.
Motion by Dr. Malco,
I'll second.
second by Mrs. Kelly. Any discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And then I wanted to update the board on a stakeholder group I'm participating in with the Department of Ed. So it is a group designed to address some of the issues around the shortage of speech language pathologists in the state, and also just how services are delivered. So I'm participating, and one of our SLPs is also participating. So the first meeting they had was with practitioners and administrators together, and since that first meeting, they've separated us, so we're meeting separately. So a couple pros regarding how we function here that I've learned. I'm very proud to say we are making student-centered decisions and really following the individualized piece of an IEP. I've learned that some of our folks around the state, if you qualify for speech and language services, everybody gets the same number of minutes, regardless of their level of disability, which, so I'm very happy that we're individualizing things here. We are also well ahead of other parts of the state when it comes to our compensation model. Other directors have been very interested in what we're doing, and certainly other SLPs are very interested in what we're doing. I do think part of that is due to our proximity to Illinois. It has sort of forced us to move forward with some changes, whereas other parts of the state are not there. But things like the stipend we provide to our SLPs who supervise an SLPA, a lot of other districts are not doing anything like that. So we're doing some really good things. Areas for us to improve upon, one would be creating some eligibility guidelines. So we really do leave it up to the judgment of our practitioners, and other districts are really focusing on using a three-pronged model. So is there the presence of a disability, which is what we would establish through our testing? Is there an educational impact from that disability? And then does that impact require the skilled intervention from a speech-language pathologist? So I met with the SLPs last week, and we are going to begin our year next year on our early release days, really focusing on how do we define those things for Lake Central, and creating some more standardization between our buildings. So we're sure that a student who would qualify for speech at Bibbich would also qualify at Grimmer, that sort of thing. We sort of have an unofficial way of looking at workload versus caseload. So, you know, you can't really just quantify the number of SLPs on a teacher's or on a speech pathologist caseload and say everybody should have 70 students, because those students can look very different. So I sort of look at that. I know in general what the populations of our buildings are, but there are some computer programs that can help with that, so I'm going to take a look at those over the summer. We have not spent as much time as I would like talking about the actual shortage of SLPs and how to address that problem. One thing that the Department of Ed seems to really be advocating for is the use of SLPAs, who are speech-language pathology assistants, and they practice under the supervision of an SLP. That's something we already do, and it does help, but it doesn't solve the problem, because it creates a larger workload for our SLPs, and the SLPAs cannot do everything an SLP can do. So it seems a little short-sighted, but the Department of Ed seems to be pushing that really hard. So the nice thing about this group is it gives me a chance to share our experience. We have fantastic SLPAs, but that can't be the only solution to this problem. So we will continue working on that. They're in the process of deciding if they want to try to do another meeting in the summer. It kind of sounded like the folks from the IDOE were not interested in meeting in the summer, although most of us on the other side said we'd love to because we're here, and that's when we have time to think about things. So I will keep participating, and I'll keep you posted. And that's it.
So I am so curious. Who are you meeting with from IDOE? Is it a?
So actually, our state director of special education, who is Nancy Holsapple, and then one of their specialists, who is a former SLP, but has limited experience in the field.
Okay, just curious. So the department chair is part of it then?
Right, yeah,
Okay.
Dr. Holsapple is participating.
That's good to know.
Mhm.
And I found out the name of this test, that it's the HISET, HISET. That's what all the states have gone to now in lieu of the GED.
So I'm just doing a quick Google here, so forgive me if I mess anything up.
Oh, you were
but
doing-
it looks like in Indiana, you can take either the GED or the HiSET, and there are 5 subject areas, so then if you pass on one, you can combine those 2 different sets of scores together. It looks like they have sunset the task, but you can still factor those in if you pass them and still haven't met all the criteria.
Right, yeah. Thank you, Sarah, for checking that out.
I hope I got it right.
Thank you. Now to our Director of Facilities, Mr. Ledyard.
Thank you, Mrs. Seuss. I just have an update for the projects as well as one action item tonight. Bibbage project going very well on the outside. Cafeteria, we have finished drywalling. We'll start painting there this week. All the above ceiling insulation's done, and we passed all our inspections, so we'll probably start grading there next week. We should finish pouring all the sidewalks here this week, as long as the weather is cooperative, and it looks like it will be, other than tomorrow. In rooms, the existing rooms 1, 2, and 3, we've got all the framing done, all the inspections have passed for the walls, and we'll start drywalling there this week as well. And we've got scheduled to move out all the old furniture and everything Monday and Tuesday. I have all the classrooms in the existing building on June 3rd and 4th, and we'll start demolition literally June 4th and 5th in those rooms. So that's where Bibbage is at. The freshman center, we've been doing behind the scenes, as we said last time, at in the back of house, boiler rooms, mechanical rooms, and we are going to start floor protection and demolition on Thursday, May 30th, and we're moving out May 30th, and we are going to start demolition literally on May 31st. And we'll start running electric and ductwork June 3rd and 4th, and it's a very aggressive schedule, but we've had a lot of meetings and coordination, logistics meetings, so hopefully all that goes accordingly this summer. It's going to be a busy summer at both those buildings. Any questions?
So is there a time, Mr. Ledyard, when we could view the changes at Bibbage School?
There's not, we're just going to be doing a whole bunch of moving right now. I mean, there's.
So that's why I'm asking, is there a time when we could view?
Not
Right now,
really.
you're just kind of moving furniture, but later in the summer?
Later in the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool, thanks.
My last item is to seek your approval to award and execute the the allowance authorization XA 102 to Arctic Engineering for the freshman center in the amount of $22,285.20. This is, we're having to add 30 amp buckets to the existing main distribution panel to handle the load for the air handlers 1 and 2. Those are the only air handlers we have left, as I told you, for in the cafeteria, and this will come out of the project allowance.
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Malco,
I'll second.
second by Mrs. Kelly. Any questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
And our Director of Business Services, Mr. James.
Good evening. My first item is to seek your approval for the professional leave request included in your board packet.
Move for approval.
Motion by Dr. Malco, and I will second that. Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. My next item is to seek your approval for the donations that were included in your board packet.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Mrs. Kelly,
Second?
second by Mr. Marshall. Questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. My third item is to seek the board's approval for an update to our food service meal charging policy. That updated policy was included in your board packet with the changes highlighted. In just a summary, we really wanted to outline our procedure for when we send delinquent negative accounts to collections, which is currently when a balance gets over $50, we for those amounts that exceed that amount in the whole at the end of the school year, we have been sending those to collections and let them deal with that. The other big piece of this is when we write off bad debt, we have to make up those funds one way or another, and we are not allowed to use the money that's sitting in our food service fund to offset those negative balances. So what we've talked to other school districts around the state about, as many of them have a separate food service donation fund, where if people want to give donation money to help offset some negative balance of kids' accounts, which we have brought to this board before, instead we would put that money into this fund and then use that money to offset some of the delinquent amounts we write off. In addition, we have money for students who have become inactive, they've withdrawn, or they've graduated, and we have a food service has a procedure in which all graduating seniors, they email the families, and they have the choice if they like to move any money that they have in their accounts to a sibling who might be in a younger grade, do they want a refund, or whatnot. And so this kind of spells out that if we get no response, then we're just going to presume that they would like to donate that money to the school, and then we would put that money into that donation fund in order to use to help offset some of the bad debt we write off. So that's in summary of what this update to the policy is. It's really just establishing this, we're calling it the Hunger Heroes Fund, and I'd like to get the board's approval on that.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Marshall,
Second, because it's a great idea, absolutely. So if we want to make a donation to Hungry Heroes, we don't have to be specific?
That is correct. And in the policy, Deanne has outlined how they would distinguish and how to utilize those funds. If someone wanted to make a specific donation, say, I want to use this for a specific student's account, I'm sure that would be noted. But in the policy, she's spelled out of what criteria they would use and the steps to determine, which ones to offset. So.
And then along that same line, but a nice program, Mrs. Castanetti, you sent us information on the summer program that will be there to help our students, right? And is that for all students or just students qualifying for?
Just students who qualified for free reduced lunch will get the Sunbucks.
Sunbucks, is that what it's called? Okay. Well, that's nice. Thank you.
we had a second by Dr. Malco, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. And my last item is just to give the board an update on our process for doing our 2024 general obligation bonds. As we've talked about the last few years, this is probably going to be an annual thing that we do with the board. And so included in your board packet, I've included a list of the items that we are looking to do for this summer. As you can see, it is all buses and then some asphalt and roof repairs, that patchwork in essence for Mr. Ledger to use throughout the district. Included in our planned uses for the funds would be 5 traditional passenger buses, 4 of the small mini activity buses, which really will come in handy because you don't need a CDL license to drive those. And then also we're looking to purchase 2 of the passenger trip buses. If you recall, we used to have 4 of those coach buses. We got rid of those. Really, we were having a lot of mechanical issues with those from day one. And so these would replace 2 of those, but they would not be the same coach buses like we had in the past with the rear engines. These would be front engines. They would be a different color, but the insides, so on the outside, they kind of look like a traditional bus, but they'll be decked out a little bit more. But the insides will have the better seating, the places on the top to storage. So We're going to try to go this route again. This is all really based on feedback from our bus drivers and our mechanics. And so there's no action item on this. At our next board meeting, we would have a public hearing on the issuance of the bonds, and then I'll have 2 resolutions for the board to approve at that time. So, any questions?
No, but I think investing in those 78 passenger buses are really, that's a good investment. Long days for some of our athletes.
Yep.
With some of the distance trips.
All right, thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you. And there are no public comments, so we'll go right into our board comments and consideration of future agenda items. Mr. Marshall?
Thank you. I have nothing this evening, thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Kelly? I also have nothing. Thank you. Mrs. Talent? Dr. Malco?
The only thing I have to share with you is that this yummy cookie, and you all received one, is a gift from the
Where's
Lake
yours?
Central Education Foundation for your assistance throughout the years. And it was made by the students in the FCCLA food class at Lake Central High School. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Enjoy them.
Thank
They're
you.
very good.
And I
That was
just
it.
have a few things. You know, congratulations to this roughly 780 students that'll be at commencement on the 29th. And if you haven't had the opportunity, I thought the yearbook was very nice this year. And our publications, our students, the LCTV put out their final publication, and it was really good. So if you have a chance to watch it on YouTube, please do so.
That's
Okay.
on YouTube, you say?
Yeah.
Okay.
With that, board calendar, future activities, Dr. Veraco.
Okay, so as Cindy mentioned, we are here next Wednesday. Tentative plan is to be outdoors, and the weather looks like it could cooperate, but, you know, Erin Novak, our principal, will reserve the right to change her mind the day before based on forecast. The last thing we want to do is get caught in rain, so, or in chill, so. It is better outdoors. We experienced it twice a few years back, and it's really nice out there when the weather's good. So that's coming up, and then we're back here on Monday, June the 10th.
Point of information, I missed it. Why the 10th rather than the 3rd? I forgot. First and third,
We went to one meeting in June and one meeting in July because we were struggling to find agenda items last summer.
okay, that went over my head.
So, yeah,
One
we're
meeting in June.
one in each month, yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right, do we have a motion for adjournment?
Call for adjournment.
All in favor?
You didn't vote.